I'm Nancy Showalter, and you're listening to Spirituality for the Politically Incorrect podcast. Welcome, all radical paradigm shifters and creative change makers. You who dare to create a better life and a better world. Tap into the power that resides within you and use that power for constructive change. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode, Our Magnificent Afterlife, Beyond Our Fondest Dreams. And our guest today is the author of Our Magnificent Afterlife, David Lundberg. Very happy to have you with us today, David. Welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. And I just want to let everybody know that this is a pretty unique overview of the heaven worlds that you've put together. It's awesome how many different aspects of life after death that it includes and covers. Not only the beauty of the afterlife, which is really neat the way you bring that out, but also the design of the afterlife, divine justice, and how the afterlife government works, and what do souls spend their time doing in the afterlife? A lot of things you cover. It's really pretty exciting. So,
thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome. David, why did you choose this subject? Because I'm sure it's of interest to a lot of people, but why in particular did you do this?
Well, I think so many people are curious about what's going to happen next after we make our transition. You have all the world's religions basically acknowledging that there is a form of afterlife, but the sacred texts of the world's religions, which I found out when I worked on my first book, they don't really go into any detail about what it's like. So I decided I wanted to find out what I could, and I found all this fascinating information. And I looked at over 100 books, and then I looked at what was out there, and I said, gee, nobody else is really putting together a book that takes from all these different sources that are really good and puts it together in like an overview of all these different aspects of the afterlife. So I said, well, there's a huge need for that because so many people on this planet are afraid of death, or they're ignorant of what happens. And you know, just before this interview, Nancy, I was out shoveling snow, and I was thinking, you know, what can I say that really is important for people to know? And I think God gave me the message is simply that God loves us more than almost everyone on the planet realizes. That God loves us more than the very best parents on this planet love their children. And
Right.
He has designed beautiful afterlife experience depending on each person's there's all these different places and levels, and it's all for our gentle gradual education so we can gradually evolve and come up higher to areas that are progressively more and more beautiful. And
Yes.
the key to it is really the joy in living is really giving, and it's all about love. So it's designed for, on the one hand, the balance of reaching up higher to the next step, you know, personally, but then reaching back behind us to help those in need. It's just a wonderful design, and again, I didn't see any other books out there. Nowadays, all the afterlife books are about near-death experiences, and it's somebody spends 15 minutes or an hour on the other side and they come back, but they don't really provide an overview of all these the lower heaven worlds.
Right.
And I did want to point out that it's my book is a pretty thorough overview of the lower heaven worlds. I couldn't get into the higher realms that much because they're just almost impossible for words to describe.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting more into the internal joys and feelings that the people, their souls on those planes experience.
Right. And, you know, it's very just reminiscent of what Jesus said, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. And we know that there are many different levels in the spirit world. and different activities. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what do souls spend their time doing in the afterworld?
Well, yeah, just to touch on you mentioning that Bible quote about the mansions. Yeah, it's not just a lot of different. What it means is that there's all these different places for souls to go from one level to the next level as they evolve.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now, what was your question again? Just you wanted to hear some overview of the.
Well, what do souls spend their time doing? You talk about that.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, there's anything. I mean, there's certain jobs that aren't necessary, like being a plumber and some of the trades. Souls that will help newly arrived souls in the afterlife. There are teaching positions. There are doctors, even though everyone on the other side has a perfectly healthy soul body. Doctors are still needed to help people or souls when they first come over.
Well, especially if they were a violent death or a difficult death in an accident or.
Absolutely. Any stress or trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you live to a ripe old age, there's all the stress from that, knowing that death is coming up and the fears of death. There's a lot of stress to transmute. And there's also souls that send creative ideas to people on Earth. There are and spirit guides to people on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's the arts and sciences.
There's study also, right?
For studying for personal, a lot of times people on Earth, they want to really learn about a subject, and circumstances prevent them from doing so. They have to work and take care of their family. So it's so satisfying and fulfilling when they can finally get a chance to study their favorite subjects.
Right.
And typically they might do that for a while, but they also might at the same time or either before or after that enjoy what all souls enjoy in the Summerland levels and higher, helping others
right.
that need help. And then there's gardening, there's building design, there's really anything you can think of that's positive and constructive.
Mm.
But what's interesting is as I said earlier, there are no there's certain occupations that aren't needed because everybody's in perfect health, and there's no night. It's just one ongoing day, according to the reports that I've read. And you don't need to eat. You don't have to worry about money. That's a beautiful thing.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not. There's several different authors that have taken down reports from the other side saying that what is reported is there's no end to the number of different tasks that are available on the other side. I devoted a whole chapter just to music and how people can learn to play various instruments, or they can just listen, or they can send creative ideas to composers on Earth. And I guess the degree of the music is, just impossible to describe here. But I should mention that some of the music on the planet is not welcome on the other side. It's not really considered music. It's just noise.
Right.
But if it's positive and harmonious, then it's fine. And even the most beautiful music has certain temporary inharmonies, but they always resolve.
Right.
So there's just beauty in all forms. It makes me right away, I think of what I had in one of my first chapters describing the beauty of the afterlife, where there's so much talk about the flowers. And when you encounter the flowers, it's really a total sensory experience, because you're not only seeing varieties of flowers that aren't on the earth, in addition to the kind that are on the earth, but the degree of their colors is just much more intense and varied, and it can change. And then not only visually are the flowers so beautiful, but the smells are stronger and also more beautiful, and they also emit music when you get close to them. And when you get really close and show interest, they will actually lean towards you.
Right. Well, it just expressing the intelligence. And of course, we have that intelligence here in this dimension, but it is many of those elemental beings, so to speak, are covered over with a lot of density from the misuses of the energy here on this level. So it's not nearly the clarity that you're describing, which is actually meant to be here in that way too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, life is just so predominant, and it's all designed to give us a beautiful experience. And,
right.
And I just felt that people needed to be more aware of all of this, and it would make our lives, seem much more fulfilling and having meaning and purpose if we know more details about how nice the afterlife is.
Right.
But and then that makes me think of that I have to put in my warning, even though this book is filled with all these different wonderful, beautiful aspects of the afterlife. I felt I had to insert a little cautionary note that suicide is not a good thing for anyone to consider, because it kind of short circuits our purpose while we're here on the earth, and then you would wind up causing great sorrow and grief to your loved ones. And there's several reasons I list on that section in the book about why suicide is definitely not a good thing to do.
Right. Well, we know that we come here, we come from those dimensions, and we come here with a purpose, as you said. And that purpose sometimes is dictated by what we've talked about on previous shows of our karma, the law of cause and effect. And sometimes we have challenges to overcome and to work through. And so that's why suicide is aborting that purpose.
Absolutely. Like, well, very well said. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes.
And you've already said that your book is really talking about the lower spiritual levels. And we know that there's even lower spiritual levels. We've talked about that in previous episodes too, that the very highest spiritual levels where the masters who have really mastered time and space and have evolved to a high level, which we call ascended masters. And then you have levels that go down where people are really in confusion and don't understand, what's happening with the purpose of life. So there's many different dimensions, but we want to hear about your dimensions that you've written about and all the information you've garnered. And you talk about divine justice, and I think that's something that people would really love to hear about, because there's a lot of fear around many religions. Actually, in our upbringing, we are told how, if you do this, you're a sinner and you can't get into heaven and all these things. So what did you find out? What's your research show about divine justice?
Well, divine justice, there's the law of karma, which is kind of like the law of like attracts like.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just start with the very worst people that all they can think about is selfish things and how they can get something from someone else. They're going to face their justice once they get over on the other side, if they don't face it on this side. And they're going to have a life review, and they're going to experience and feel the suffering that they caused to everyone during their lifetime. And they're going to develop a sense of empathy. And if they don't do it right away, then they're going to wind up in purgatory or hell for a while. And what that is, it's not a permanent place where they burn or anything like that. It's just a place they're going to be in with other souls of like mind, of the same thought habit patterns.
Right.
And that's not going to be very pleasant for them until they turn to the light and they ask for help, which is always available when it's asked for. And So divine justice is a reality, and it's nice to know that it exists, because a lot of people are not only afraid, but there's anger and frustration about what a relatively few number of people on this planet are doing to cause so much suffering. Now, on the lighter scale, where there's just normal mistakes and a lot of unintentional causing suffering to other people, but most of us are in that category where we haven't really sinned in a huge way, like I was just talking about. But God loves us. Again, He loves us like so much, just like sons and daughters, which we are, to the Creator. We wouldn't want our children to suffer more than necessary, and we're going to want our children to feel forgiven and learn from their mistakes. So
Right.
What we have to do when we sin, and where the grace comes in, and the forgiveness is, we are forgiven as we forgive. And once we get on the other side and have our life review, and then we have our judgment, and that is often aided with assistance of a karmic board or ascended masters that can help a person visualize and see what they've done and understand it, and have that sense of empathy with the suffering that they caused others. We wind up, according to several sources, judging ourselves with this increased awareness or consciousness, which may be aided by some higher souls that'll make sure we have that experience.
Right.
And then we decide, what can we do to make amends? And then, pray for any individuals that we have harmed. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's basically, we're all learning to become purified and to love each other.
Right. And we learn by that law of cause and effect. Our actions, our words, all of those things have reactions. Like you say, like attracts like. And
yeah.
It's a matter of whatever consciousness we actually have here on Earth. When we leave our body, like you said, we go to that level of where our consciousness is, where our vibration is. And everyone who's described this life review, it's like you judging yourself. You're looking at your life and you're seeing not only from your perspective, but as you say, from the people you interacted with, and you learn from that. We all learn, and sometimes then we have to come back, and we have specific plans that are all worked out, to be able to come back and work on balancing some of the decisions and uses of energy that weren't the most constructive, so that we can balance the karma and fulfill the good karma and the reason for our whole creation to begin with, why we're here on Earth to begin with. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, it is. And one point to make is that after we leave our physical bodies, our consciousness, and they've already got scientific experiments that show that consciousness can exist outside of the physical body, but it's no longer encased in a physical brain, so it's much easier for it to have a greater degree of awareness, a wider consciousness, and that enables souls during the life review and during the judgment to be more fully aware of. And a lot of times it's things the souls have totally forgotten about that they've done, and it's not just bad things; it's good things during the life review. There's
yes,
a whole
absolutely.
section of it. So that's nice, and that balances things out.
Right. And sometimes the things that we think are so important and the things we've done, really aren't that significant in the overall view of your life. But, guilt can be a very heavy weight on people at times. So
absolutely, there's a lot of guilt that people are weighed down with, or feelings of shame, regret, remorse, and a lot of it is really, as you said, it's not that serious, and we need to realize that our loving Father, Mother God, our Creator, forgives us instantly. They've already forgiven us, and they just wait for us to realize that love.
And forgive ourselves and move, always moving toward love, no matter what wrongs we have done, even if they're very serious. In some people's lives, it is. There are serious wrongs, and taking another life or whatever. And you can always have forgiveness, but you need to move toward love, and not just love in the human sense, but divine love, understanding the oneness of life and how we really are from the same source. There's only one God, and all of us come from that source. So, yes, it's very, very interesting, and it's a great book. Highly recommend it to everybody. So David, tell us, how does this information change a person's life now? They're not ready to die necessarily. They're living a life. So how does this change?
Well, as I touched upon it a minute ago, it's for one thing, people will have a reduction in their sense of guilt and shame about things that aren't really of that great importance once they realize how divine justice works and how forgiving and loving our Creator is. So that's a wonderful benefit. And there's a lot of evidence on how of the benefits of learning this knowledge when we look at the various current books that are out about near-death experiences. Because after the people have it and they spend some time in the afterlife, they come back and they change their habits, and they wind up doing things that involve serving people more than before. And they get more enjoyment out of life. They're free of the fear of death.
Yes.
And they're also feel better about, it helps to ease any grief that they have about any loved ones that they've already lost. And they come back with an increased sense of empathy and more love. And they come back with more courage, because they don't have this fear. And some of them will take up public speaking, where in the past, before their NDE, their near-death experience, they wouldn't do it, because that's the number one fear of everyone, more than the fear of death, speaking.
Right.
and then there's just the joy of the anticipation. When our time comes, not making it happen too soon or considering suicide, but when our time comes, we can have a wonderful sense of anticipation and joy in how wonderful it is. And it's just proof, manifest proof of how much our Creator loves us.
Right. Yeah, that's really great. So David, to wind up, is there any specific advice you would leave for the listeners? Just one last thought. How would you sum that up?
Well, what pops into my head is I did a blog called 10 Steps to Prepare for the Afterlife, and it's on my website, cdavidlundberg.com, or if people go to just Magnificent Afterlife, they can also click on the top. It's really the same site, and then they click on blogs, and I've got about 6 so far, and one
that's
of them
great.
is 10 Steps to Prepare.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's great.
I know, it's just loving service and prayer and meditation and taking good care of your body. That's some of them. We have to be very responsible. These are our body temples. They're sacred, and if we know that the food is going to taste good, but it's not going to do our body good, we really have to think twice before we put it into our system, because it's going to block our attunement with.
Exactly, it affects us spiritually. People don't always understand that. Not only that, but it bogs your health down, and you want every moment of this embodiment to be at the very highest level and fulfilling your plan in every way.
Yeah, and I certainly don't practice what I preach. I can still get tempted by pizza and all kinds of things.
Well, and we all do that too. But it's just a matter of being able to understand that, health is extremely important. Without it, you really are limited to what you can contribute to life and what you can contribute to your own divine purpose.
Absolutely.
but it also has its role too. So we just need to do the best we can and take care of, like you say, our physical body, our emotions, our mental bodies, all aspects of ourself and our spiritual life. So David, thank you so much. This has been a great pleasure, and I do recommend your book. I hope everyone will get a copy. And speaking of that, I believe the hard copy in Amazon now is like 40% off. And I think you have some special you were going to do for the ebook.
Well, for listeners, I believe you told me when this would air, and if it does air on November 10th, I can reduce the price for anybody that wants to order the ebook. I'll go on to Amazon and lower the price from, I think, $7.99 for the ebook down to $2.99 for November 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And folks, you can go to magnificentafterlife.com. Just those 3 words, no the in there. It's just magnificentafterlife.com and get more information. And be sure to take advantage of this ebook special for $2.99. And if you like hardcover copies, 40% off. So it's an awesome opportunity. So thank you again, David, and everybody. I will see you next week. Until then, keep an open mind, a generous heart, and a powerful spirit. Thank you for being with me today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, download, and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and your support is much appreciated. And don't forget, go to nancyshowalter.com to get your free electronic copy of my book, It's Okay to Be Rich, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Increased Wealth and Personal Mastery, endorsed by T. Harv Eker, and my free mini course, How to Speak Your Success, the shocking truth of how your words impact achieving your goals. I'll see you next week.